Welcome. I'm Jan Marini, the founder of Jan Marini Skin Research. I am here with Kelly. Kelly's here today for a consultation, and Kelly is a hairstylist in Los Gatos. So Kelly, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
If there was something you could change or improve about your skin, what would it be?
The dark patches on my skin.
Okay, so discoloration.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
The dark under my eyes.
Okay, so dark circles.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Maybe like above my lip kind of gets a little bit discolored as well,
Okay.
I feel like.
So your face and your upper lip. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
And maybe just smoother skin.
So when you say smoother skin, are you talking about size of the follicles? Are you talking about fine lines, general texture? How would you categorize
Texture,
it?
general
Okay.
texture.
And you're happy with the size of your pores, that type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And any acne, anything like that?
Not really.
Okay. So do you consider your skin to be more normal, combination, dry? How do you categorize it?
I think normal.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have any areas where you tend to get like shiny during the day, that type of thing?
No, not really.
Okay. Were you ever a smoker?
Years ago.
Okay. How about a sunbather?
Yes, years ago.
Okay. When you say years ago, mainly as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
or? And as a teenager, did you have acne?
It wasn't too bad.
But you had some?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say it was more mild or moderate?
Mild.
And tell me where you tended to have your acne.
Gosh, it was a long time ago. Probably like cheeks.
Okay. Were they mainly papules, pustules, or did you ever get cysts or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Ready? So let's talk about what you use. What do you wash with in the morning?
Really clean cleansing is what it's called, I think. Really clean something. I get it from the beauty supply. I
Okay.
think it's just called Really Clean, the brand.
And is it a gel? Is it a
Gel.
Okay. So is it fair to say that it's probably for all skin types?
Probably.
Okay. And then what do you do after that?
I put a moisturizer on.
And what kind of moisturizer? What's the brand?
Element, I think is what it is.
Okay. Elements.
Mm-hmm. And I use the most moisturizing one.
Okay, so it's a cream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what do you do after that?
I'll do my makeup.
Okay. What about sunscreen?
I use this spray from, I think it's called Super Goo from Nordstrom's that has like SPF in it. So I can just kind of respray throughout the day.
So now when you say super glue, is it meant to be a
It's Super
toner?
Goo.
Super Goo.
Yes. It's,
Super glue. That's a good one.
That would be tough.
You spray super glue.
Yeah.
I don't want to stick to you.
I think it's called Super Goo, and I think they make sunscreen, but this one happens to be like, I wouldn't say it's a toner as much as a setting spray with
Okay.
SPF in it.
Okay, and what is the SPF?
30? Sometimes I'll put, if I'm going to be out in the sun without a hat on, I'll put sunscreen on also and have the mister.
Okay, so just so you know, unless a sunscreen specifically talks about broad spectrum and has the FDA kinds of sort of regs on them in terms of what that SPF 30 means, if it's getting the highest rating, it's not really giving you much of any protection at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Sunscreens, if it kind of feel like water when you spray it on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I maybe when we're done, I'll look that up for you, but it's probably not going to fit the broad spectrum kind of category. So broad spectrum, when we look at visible light in terms of how it penetrates, the scale of visible light goes from 0 to 400 nanometers. Mm-hmm. Now, UVB, which we refer to as burning rays, they're the strongest in the summertime. If it's a really cloudy day, you don't tan. Mm-hmm. They go from 0 to 320. UVA rays, which are the same intensity all year round, same intensity all day long. They can even go through the light clothing. They can 50% go through the windshield of your car. Those rays penetrate like an X-ray. So you don't notice a sunburn. You probably don't notice anything. You could be outside and you could be all day long getting that UVA penetration, which is responsible for a lot of the damage we see in terms of lines and wrinkles, discoloration. It's also responsible for a lot of the deeper skin cancers. But you could be getting a lot of UVA, which gets programmed into your DNA. It could take years to show up, but it's bad, bad, bad damage, and you don't even know it. So many sunscreens are not broad spectrum. They could be an SPF 100, and it doesn't mean that they cover that range or that they cover it in a way in which it's going to be sustainable for even 2 hours. So it's important that you look at your sunscreens and you make certain that they have that kind of coverage. Okay. So, at night, same cleanser? Okay. Same.
And that's it. I don't do anything else. Just cleanse. I don't even put moisturizer on or anything.
Okay. Now, does your skin feel dry at night?
A little bit, but I go right to bed, so I don't really notice it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about some of your concerns. And really what we're talking about here is we're talking about kind of skin rejuvenation, because skin rejuvenation is a term that I use that doesn't just address fine lines and wrinkles, but really it's about everything. It's about discoloration. It's texture. It's wanting the skin that's smooth. It's wanting everything to be even toned. It's wanting the skin to kind of glow and look really reflective. And of course, to just look as youthful and as healthy and as glowing as possible. So when we talk about skin rejuvenation, most of the damage that you're going to see in your lifetime happened before the age of 10. And at least 50% of it is programmed into your skin by the age of 20. It takes 10, 20, 30 years for it to show up. Now, the more sun exposure you have, probably the more it's going to exacerbate it. But so many times, I repeat this all the time, but so many times between the age of, let's say, 20 and 30 or 35, people say, oh, I didn't feel like my skin really aged at all. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you look in the mirror and you start to see these aging changes. And people think, oh, that's just inevitable. Everybody's going to get older. But really, 90 to 95% of what you perceive as inevitable aging is sun exposure. So sun exposure is responsible for discoloration, fine lines, brown spots. Now, there's certain things that we call intrinsic damage, like the way that the face changes as you age, or dynamic muscle movement, or things like that, that really don't have a lot to do with sun exposure. But most of what we look at when we look in the mirror is sun exposure. So that's what we want to address. And that would be everything that you're talking about, really. Now, except dark circles. Now, dark circles do have a sun component, but dark circles are something that you inherit, because you inherit whether or not your blood vessels are close to the surface or whether they're more recessed. So the closer to the surface your blood vessels are, the more that they show up. And typically people that have blood vessels close to the surface, then they complain about dark circles. Now, blood vessels are kind of part of that sort of sinus cavity underneath there, and that's actually a large cavity. So what happens is that when your circulation slows down, and I'll bet you if you have allergies, if you have a cold, you didn't get enough sleep, you have dark circles that are more noticeable. That's because the circulation slows down, and so there's fluids in that area, and the blood vessels also kind of get engorged. The circulation slows down, so the blood doesn't flow away as well, and your blood vessels are more noticeable. But secondarily, those blood vessels get damaged with sun exposure. And as they become damaged, they tend to get leaky. And when they get leaky, the color that makes blood vessels is something called iron oxides. So you have a discoloration underneath the eye that's caused by what's known as bilirubin and verdirubin, are a couple of the sort of excipients, you could say, that come up from those iron oxides. So that's one of the reasons why you have dark circles. Generally, it gets worse as you get older because the blood vessels are more damaged. The skin underneath the eye is thinner. So those are some of the things kind of we want to address the appearance of that as well. Okay, so, and by the way, your discoloration, that's pretty much two components. One is that it's sun exposure, because genetically, the more sun exposure that you have, depending on your genetic background, depending on your coloration, some of the factors that and how you respond to the sun plays a huge role. But the main thing is sun exposure. We all have a hormone in our body. And if you are a redhead and you have freckles and you never tan but you always burn, you probably have as much hormone as you do or I do. But it's how we respond according to our genetics to sun exposure. And you can have more of that hormone if you have birth control pills, more of it if you're pregnant. And I don't know if this is something if you have children, and maybe this is something where you've had melasma in the past and it just hasn't gone away.
Exactly.
So that's a major factor. So when we talk about discoloration, there's that factor, and we're also talking about how the pigment is thrown off. And generally what determines how pigment is thrown off is it has to do with the combination of active tyrosinase in your epidermis and also copper metabolism. So we kind of want to address some of these factors for the appearance of pigmentation. And interesting, they've actually done studies where when they show individuals pictures of people and kind of like, here, guess their age, and you think lines and wrinkles is the most defining factor as to how old you think someone is. And actually, pigmentation can make people look more aged than fine lines and wrinkles. So everyone over the age of 35, 100% of all individuals will have abnormal pigmentation. So this is a huge issue. So this is something we want to address, because the brighter, the more even tone that we can make your skin appear, then the more youthful and the more glowing that it looks. Okay, so what we're going to do is today I'm going to put you on a basic skincare management system. And we're going to do a normal combo. So even though you said your skin is normal, it probably is actually pretty normal, and it probably, I definitely wouldn't put you on the dry side. In fact, you might even be a little bit more on the combination side, but you're really not using a lot of moisturization. So sometimes people will say, oh gee, I'm really dry, and they're not really using anything. They might be using soap and water. They might be using something that tends to make the skin feel drier. On the other hand, somebody could say, well, I'm combination, or I'm tending to be oily, and they might be using a lot of products that tend to make them feel oilier than they are. So I would say, though, you're probably on the normal combination. And number one thing that we're going to do for your skin is something called resurfacing. And resurfacing is a term that I use that addresses everything from the appearance of mild to moderate acne, or it could be redness from rosacea, or it could be the size of the follicles, the texture of the skin, discoloration, the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, all of those things, because again, we want the skin to look perfected. We want the skin to look glowing. When you see people walk down the red carpet and they look like they're not really wearing makeup, but they are, but they have that sort of flawless, glowing, natural look. Well, that's what we're going for. So that's kind of what we want to address.
That's what I want.
So that's a skincare management system. And the way that we accomplish resurfacing is usually with an acid or a combination of acids. Now, one of the questions that I'm always asked is, Jan, how can we all be on the same system, but we have different concerns? Well, to give you an example, there's a product in here called BioClear. And BioClear is a combination of glycolic, salicylic, and azelaic acid. Azelaic acid is sold by prescription. For acne, it's sold by prescription for rosacea. It's also one of the best brighteners we've ever seen for the appearance of pigmentation. And it's also one of the best combinations when you put it together with glycolic and salicylic that I have ever seen for the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles and being able to just retexturize the skin. So we could all be on the system, but for different reasons. And by the way, the skincare management system has won the award for 6 years in a row with New Beauty magazine as being the best system in a doctor's office. So that's the system we're going to put you on. And there's a number of other components in here, including an SPF 33. And one thing I'll tell you about this SPF 33 that people love. First of all, it has the highest level of protection you can give in terms of how it covers the spectrum, but also it has an unlimited oil capture system. If you have a tendency to dry skin or normal skin, it makes the skin feel completely soft and silky. But if you have a combination skin, or just maybe it's just really warm, it's summertime, and you tend to be a little bit more on the oily side. It cannot absorb water, it cannot absorb actives, but it has an almost unlimited capacity to absorb oil. And it leaves the skin just feeling so completely balanced. I mean, I love to wear it indoors because my skin feels better with it on than without it. And if you do wear foundation, it is the best makeup base I've ever seen. Okay, so there's going to be a cleanser, a lipid-soluble form of vitamin C, the BioClear, and a product called Transformation, your moisturizer, and your sunscreen. Now, the other thing that I'm going to recommend for you is I'm going to recommend our Illuminate Face Lotion. And this is going to be for the appearance of discoloration. So this is kind of, we're bringing in the big guns for that. And now, once you kind of acclimate to everything, there's probably going to be a couple of things that I'm going to add into your system. One is going to be Hyla 3D. This is a very new and different form of hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is an ingredient that holds about 1 to 10,000 times its weight in water. I've used it in products for years. You can go and find products everywhere from the drugstore to any department store. It's very common. But it's a large molecule, sits on the surface of the skin. You've heard of hyaluronic acid because they also use it in injectables. However, this is a game changer. These are tiny little molecules that actually can get into the skin. And it makes a huge difference in the appearance of just the softness and the skin being more volumized. It's a very thin serum, so the skin doesn't feel like you've put anything else on it. It just disappears right away. I'm probably also going to recommend for you something called Cleanzyme and Skinzyme. That's a proteolytic enzyme. It's something you can use once a week or 2 times a week or 3 times a week. I use it every night. I know everybody's not going to be quite that dedicated, but what it does is it digests dead and diseased tissue. So it's not like a scrub. Scrubs don't know the difference between your living tissue and your dead tissue. It can only go after dead or diseased tissue. And what it so kind of dissolves it or eats it away, and when you take it off, your skin looks like glass. So when you talk about texture, this is going to be something that I think you're going to really enjoy using that as well. So, any questions for me?
I don't think so. How long is this going to take me to do this every night?
That's a good question.
Going from a person who just washes her face.
Well, you know, you can do this. It's probably going to be about 2 or 3 minutes because one of the questions I get asked is, do I have to sit around and let everything dry? In other words, you put something on and stand there and let it dry. No, you just go right after the others as quickly as you can.
Okay.
And you're done.
All right.
Okay.
Shouldn't be too hard then.
I can't wait to see what happens.
I know, me too. I'm excited.
Well, good. I am too. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in. And please, 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 please subscribe. And I'll see you again later. Bye.